Welcome to Front Mission 2, and instead of jumping just right into the game, what I decided to do was clue you in on everyone's skills and how you should set up each pilot. Every pilot you actually have, whenever you unlock the skill, you're going to want to put Feint on them, and what's really good about Feint is that it increases the skill chaining by 100% if multiple skills are equipped. You're going to want to have that on everybody. Now, Ash here, he's actually a short-range skill pilot because he eventually unlocks the skill Sniper. Now, Joyce is a long-range pilot, but with the way the hunting skill is set up, as you'll see right there, it actually works with long and short skills. So the way Joyce is set up is he's kind of a balance between short and long, but mostly long. Now, if you go over to Amiya is just strictly short-range combat. You're going to want to just stick machine guns or shotguns on her and then throw shields on her. But, I'll go over every pilot in detail after I've covered what type they are. And Griff is melee combat. Like, he uses rods, like actual clubs, maces, things like that. And his special skill, once you unlock it, is Beat Up. And the more you level it up, the better it's going to be. As you can see by the description, up to +2 additional attacks if equipped with melee weapons on both arms. So, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. He's set up as a fighter. Now, Thomas is also a fighter, but he's hand-to-hand. He works with stuff like Knuckles or Spiked Knuckles, things like that. And his special skill is 2-level damage. And the way you unlock the 2-level damage skill, as you can see, you need to first get level damage to level 2. So Rocky is also a fighter, like Thomas is. He gets this special skill called MG Blow, increases the number of attacks by 2. That's pretty good. That's a really good skill. It just takes you a long while to earn it. And, he's set up the same way. Knuckles or Spiked Knuckles, whatever. He's a fighter. He's like hand-to-hand. Now, Roswell is purely long range. And he has the special skill Destruct. Attack power, well, once it's level 4 anyway, attack power increased by 200%. Basically, what Destruct does is it buffs the explosive power of explosive weapons. Like, rockets and missiles, stuff that's long range that the skill will apply to. Things like that. But like any other pilot, you want to make sure the fire control systems are done proper and overclocked and set to the right mode and everything. Anyway, on to Lisa. So Lisa's a long-range specialist, and in a sense she's kind of a wild card because with her special skill Shooting Star, it fires all remaining ammo. So it's kind of hit or miss with this perk whether or not it's going to be effective. Like, for example, you're using like a high-level missile or rocket launcher. Say this were to trigger, on your first go, that's going to drain all the ammunition from your actual weapon units, and that's going to maximize damage. And whether or not other skills you have trigger before that, it's really all down to chance. Lisa, it's kind of like rolling the dice to maximize damage with the way her perk Shooting Star actually works to fire all remaining ammo and buff attack power. So Sayuri is a short-range specialist, and her special skill is Super Lucky. So think of Super Lucky as an overbuffed version of the normal perk Lucky, and if you'll see all the way down here, there's the Lucky skill. Now, Cordy here is also a hand-to-hand specialist, and she specializes in, Knuckles and Spike Knuckles, things like that, like the other guys did. And her special skill is Crusader. Now, the more you level up skills in this game, the better they're going to be. The nice thing about Crusader is that she has a 50% chance to inflict stun when she's using Knuckles or Punch. And it says or Rod down there, but she's primarily Knuckles. You'll never see her with using the rods or maces or anything like that. That's not Cordy's style. Now, if you'll go over to Pike, Pike is a long-range specialist. He joins later in the game. He's all about long range. He's like your best long-range guy in the game. And his special skill is Back Attack. And this one is actually rather nice because it increases your attack power, but also decreases the enemy's evasion rate. So it makes his attack hit harder, and it also makes it harder to dodge, which is actually quite nice. And the nice thing about Back Attack is that it's a long skill, but it activates in both short and long attacks. Last in line, we have Malin. Now, Malin is also a fighter. He joins later in the game, too. think about halfway, or like by the 11th or 12th mission or so, something like that. And his special skill is Blast Blow. What makes Blast Blow so nasty is that it destroys parts that were hit by the attack regardless of HP or other skills. Basically, he's gonna blow it up. And other footnotes on unexplained stats in this game, such as Control, Sight, Mechanic, and Vitality. Control affects short and fight attacks. Sight affects short and long attacks. Mechanic affects long attacks. And Vitality affects fight attacks. Now, as you can see, I'll use Maelin as an example. He has a lot of control and vitality if you look over in the talent section in the bottom right. And because he has a lot of control and vitality, that's why he's such a strong fighter. The stats your character has are going to determine how effective they are at any given thing. Anyway, now that I have the basics on the pilots covered, I'm going to go back to the beginning with Ashe and cover everyone's skills one by one. So for Ashe's skills, you're going to want to have Feint, Sniper eventually, and then Switch and Lethal Shot. And you can actually put a missile launcher on him later on, because when Lethal Shot triggers, it can destroy an enemy's part, no problem. Now moving on to Joyce. Joyce, like everyone else, Joyce is going to have Feint, but since he's long range, and I know that, I've also set him up for a bit of short range too, but I'll cover mech setups later. You're going to want to have Feint, Best Position, Critical, and Hunting, because this will allow him to be very effective long range and also very versatile short range as well. Now, Amiya is really just short range, so you want to have Feint, High Speed, Critical, and Switch on her. Now, she's extremely effective with machine guns. Whether or not you want to double her up on shotguns is up to you. But I mean, you know, dual shotguns or dual assault rifles, it's always a good move on Amiya. Now, Grif, as I've shown you previously, he's a fighter. So you really just want to have Feint, Critical, Beat Up, and level damage on him once you unlock level damage. Now, Thomas, initially when you start leveling up, you'll get perks like, you know, First and Heat Blow and Feint and other stuff like that. You always want to put Feint on, and then you want to have 2 level damage and double punch. Now, Deep Strike, although I have it on there, it hasn't really triggered that much, so if you wanted to swap it out for something else, like maybe throw in another level damage or skill up over here, which is plus 100% chance of combat skill activation, or even just leave Surrender Call on there, I mean, that's up to you, you know. I just have Thomas set up this way with Deep Strike to increase the hit rate by 20%. That's the only reason why that's on there. You know, Feint, 2 level damage, and double punch do a great job. If you wanted to put First on him instead of Deep Strike, you could absolutely do that, you know. First is not a bad perk to have paired with Feint, 2 level damage, and double punch. Just something to keep in mind. Now, if you go over to Rocky, you want to have Feint, Critical, level damage, and MG Blow. You know, his special skill. That's what you want to have for Rocky. Rocky's a fighter. And for Roswell, you want to have Feint, Best Position, Destruct, and Guide on him, since he is all long range and you just throw a bazooka on him aside from missiles and rockets. Now, Lisa is also a long range specialist, as was previously mentioned, so you want to have Feint, Shooting Star, Best Position, and Guide on her. As soon as you can get them, just slap them on there. Now, for Sayuri, what you want to have is Feint, and then Super Lucky once you get it, and then Speed and Switch. She is a very, very good short-range specialist, and she excels with machine guns, so make sure you do that for Sayuri. Now, Cordy, she's a fighter, as discussed previously, and you want to have Feint, Critical, level damage, and Crusader on her. That's what you want to have, since all she really does is punch people. You're never going to see her with a machine gun or a missile launcher, I can tell you that right now. And now we've got Pike, our long-range specialist, like one of our other main long-range specialists, and you're going to want to put Feint, and then once you unlock it, you're going to want to have back attack on him, and then Guide and Best Position. These work really well together. I haven't really had any problems with Pike. Here's Maelin, and for him, you want to have Feint, Critical, and then level damage once you unlock it, and then Blast Blow. Those are the 4 skills he has done best with, and I really haven't had any problems with him. It just took a while to level him up since he kind of appears later in the game, so you need to play with him aggressively to get experience and be mindful of upgrades like with any other pilot's mech. But anyway, that'll conclude the skills section. Now I'm going to move on to the actual Wanzers for each pilot. Now, you've already seen the skills for each pilot. Now I'm going to go into details on the weapons. Now the types of mechs you're going to have on pilots are going to vary based upon what network codes you have entered, what enemies you've surrendered, what you've decided to equip, what upgrades you've put on them, what their needs are, all the parts are going to vary. But he's currently using the Shakal B. Later in the game you get, Shakal B, Mythos B, the Raven, and other rare ones like the Eagleines H and other things like that. But some of them you can actually type in network codes for. I'll be covering details in later content about network codes, probably just on the fly as I do the playthrough. Really just give him 2 rifles, a shield, and a missile launcher. And you always want to have a backpack on everybody. Now we go over to Joyce. And what you want to do with Joyce is basically just set him up with, eventually in the long game, once you get him leveled up high enough and with nice enough mechs, you're going to want to have missiles, rockets, a machine gun, and the bazooka on him, as well as a backpack. But the bazooka does not really come until really, really late in the game, when you've got the really nice mechs. Initially you're just going to have rockets, missiles, and a machine gun on Joyce with the way he's actually set up. Amiya? She's all about machine guns, as I have said. You're going to want to have a shoulder-mounted machine gun on her, a shield, and then 2 machine guns in each hand. That's how you want to set up Amiya. Now, Griff is just a strict melee fighter. So, really what I did with Griff was I just stuck a really nice pair of legs and a core on him, and threw the Raven arms on him for extra durability and HP, among other things, and then I just put some really nice Morningstar maces on him. Those are like the end game ones. That's all I did for him. Thomas, what you want to do for Thomas is in the Ayana network code related mech, and he's a fighter anyway, so this actually pairs extremely well for him because all he's ever going to need is, hand-to-hand combat, a shield, and then some anti-air. That's all you're going to want to do for Thomas. For Rocky, same thing. Hand-to-hand combat, shield, and then an anti-air. That's all you want on him. And now for Roswell, really, what I like to do with Roswell is just give him 1 anti-air and then 1 regular, projectile, like whether it be rockets or missiles. I mean, mix and match, do whatever you want, change out your equipment per whatever mission you're doing. It's going to depend on the situation. And then really I just gave him a machine gun and a really nice bazooka. That's all you need for Roswell. I mean, the machine gun's extra. If you want to double up on bazooka and really increase your weights, that's up to you. Anyway, for Lisa, Lisa's a long-range specialist as covered earlier, and you really just want to have missiles and rockets on her along with a bazooka and a machine gun. That's really all you want to have on Lisa. Now for Sayuri, it's always handy to have an anti-air on her, and you always want her to have a shield since she's short range, and whether or not you have machine guns or shotguns on her is entirely up to your preference. That's up to you. I really like using shotguns, but I also really like using machine guns on her. But it also took me a really long time to farm the Covet shotguns from the arena in the game, so I figured why not give them to Sayuri, and she actually does a really good job with them. Now Cordy, as you know, she's a hand-to-hand fighter, and basically all you do for her is stick her on hand-to-hand combat weapons and give her 2 shields and a backpack like everyone else and call it a day. Now Pike. For Pike, as mentioned earlier, he's long range, so by default you're going to want to have missiles and rockets, and then I guess it's up to your preference whether you want to have a machine gun or a shotgun him or rock both like I am. I mean, that's entirely up to you. Last in line we have Malin. Now previously with Malin I did have him set up with the Raven, the actual Raven mech, like both for the legs and the arms. Then I just had the highest level available hand-to-hand combat Knuckles that I actually had on him. What I did notice from playing through this game multiple times is that you can actually reuse the network unlock codes each and every playthrough and keep farming those parts and items. You know, like you just gotta enter the codes. It's really that simple. So I eventually decided to put Malin in the Ayana Wanzer here, and this way he gets anti-air and hand-to-hand combat. But anyway, that covers all the details on the pilots in this video. Like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this content, and see you on the next one.